Good morning, everyone. I hope you guys had a great day yesterday, and I hope you guys are ready to learn the last lesson in our Chapter 6. And I know you guys are excited to finish this out. So let's go ahead and get started with Lesson 6.6, Systems of Linear Inequalities. So for today's lesson, you're going to need some paper, a pencil, a basic calculator, your textbook, so it'll be on page 400. And then you're going to need to access your homework 56, which is online at MathXL for School. I'll add that.com. So make sure that you go there and use your login information. That's where you're going to find the homework, just like you found last night. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to get started. All right, so we're going to start with example 1. So I'm going to write this down, example 1. Is graphing a system of linear inequalities. So graphing a system of linear inequalities. So for today's lesson, we only have to cover this one example. So we're going to do this problem here. We'll do an additional one for the example, and then we'll only do like 2 or 3 as we move in. So this will be a pretty short lesson for today, not a too terribly long video. So our first example today we're going to talk about is our first inequality, y is less than 2x minus 3. And our second inequality is 2x plus 1y is greater than 2. All right, so here's our two inequalities. So let's first assess our first one. If we look at our first inequality, Ethan, what form is it in? You're correct. This is in slope, intercept, form. Fantastic job for knowing that. So I'm going to move this up so we can keep more screen. All right, so now if it's in slope-intercept form, Ethan, what two things can I identify? You are correct, Ethan. I can identify the slope and the y-intercept. All right, so Ethan, what would be my slope of this line? Fantastic. Ethan knows that the coefficient of the x represents the slope. So the slope is 2. So Ethan, can you write that slope as a fraction? Fantastic, Ethan. That'd be 2 over 1. So what does that tell me, Cheyenne? You're right. That means I'm going to rise 2 and run right 1. Fantastic. All right, so Ethan, now going back to you, what is our y-intercept? Fantastic. He said his y-intercept is this whole back in here, the whole constant. So it's negative 3. What does that represent, Amaya? You're correct. That's my y-intercept. I like that. And what does it mean for us when graphing, Amaya? That's correct. That's my starting point. All right, so now we're going to move on over to the second one. So Miss Mia, what form is this in? That is correct. This is in standard form. All right, Miss Mia, how can I change it from standard form to slope-intercept form? You are correct. I need to subtract 2x from each side. We need to move the x value to the right. So I'm going to take 2x and then minus 2x from it. And if I subtract 2x on the left side, I've got to subtract 2x on the right side. All right, so Miss Mia, what happens to this 2x minus 2x? You're correct. They cross-cancel each other out. Now, Miss Cheyenne, are these in the correct order on the right-hand side? You're right, they're not. In slope-intercept form, remember it's the x value, which contains our slope, followed by the constant, which is our y-intercept. So who over here, Cheyenne, would represent our slope? Fantastic, the negative 2x. And then who would represent our y-intercept? Beautiful, the positive 2. All right, so now we're in slope-intercept form. So Miss Lakeisha, what represents our slope over here? Fantastic. My slope is the coefficient of the x, which is negative 2. Can you make that into a fraction, Lakeisha? Beautiful job. She said it would be -2/1. What does that mean for us, Lakeisha? Yes, sir. That means we're going to fall 2, and we're going to run right 1. All right, so what would be my y-intercept over here, Angel? You are correct. This whole back end is my y-intercept. So +2. That's my y-intercept. And what does that mean for me when graphing, Angel? That's right, it's my starting point. All right, so we're going to go ahead and create our little graph. All right, so Miss Ava, where am I going to start first of all when graphing this first equation on this side? How am I going to start? You're correct. I'm going to go to -3. So I'm going to go down 1, 2, 3 and put my first dot. That's -3. That's where I'm starting. All right, so from here, Ava, what do I do? Good job. She said she looked at her slope and she says she has to rise 2 and run right 1. So she's going to rise 2, so 1, 2, and then she's going to run to the right 1. All right, so Miss Ava, would my line be solid or dotted? Fantastic. I would have a dotted line because my inequality did not have an equal to bar. All right, so now that I got this, Isaiah, what do I do next? That's correct. We need a test point. All right, so what do we want our test point to be, Isaiah? Beautiful. He said 0, 0. And why did you say that? Fantastic. Because our line never passes through 0, 0. So therefore, 0, 0 is our test point. So remember when we're graphing this, after we drop our line, we go up over here, we make sure that we check the box to make it look like a dotted line. That's important. All right, so back to test point. So I'm going to use the original inequality. That's because it's in slope-intercept form. We're going to replace the y with 0. And we're going to replace the x with 0. There's no value other than 1. So when we distribute, we just keep 0. And then we have 2 times 0, which is 0. Then we have 0, and 0 take away 3 is -3. So Laquan, is 0 less than -3? You're correct. That is false. 0 is not less than -3. So if the test point represents the true side, the false side is where the test point is not. So we're going to shade on this side. So we shade these systems of inequalities. You're only going to drop one paint bucket. So right now we do not need to drop a paint bucket. We're going to hold off. We're just going to know or make a little sketch on the side. All right, so we're going to go ahead and graph this second equation. So where are we going to start here, Fabian? That's right. I'm going to start at the y-intercept, which is +2. So I'm going to go up 1, 2, and put my dot. There's my 2. All right, so what is my slope this time now? Yes, from here my slope is -2, so I'm going to fall 2, 1, 2, and run right 1. Beautiful. So Fabian, would I have a solid line or a dotted line? Beautiful, dotted line. And he knows this because why, Fabian? You're correct. There was no equal to bar. I don't know why I added one there. We'll take it out. Okay, so now we're looking at our line here. What do we do now, Fabian? Yes, we need a test point. All right, Fabian, can we use the same test point 0, 0? Yes, we can. Why? That's correct, because our line does not pass through 0, 0. So I'm going to go to the slope-intercept equation and replace the y value with 0 greater than -2 times 0 plus 2. All right, so there's only a 1 in front, so 1 times 0 is 0. -2 times 0 is 0 plus 2. And the question is 0 greater than 2? Is that true or false, Fabian? You're correct. That is false. 0 is not greater than 2. That's a false statement. So that means if this is our line that Fabian just drew right here, and if this is the true side, it means this side is the false side. So we'd be shading on this side. Now we're going to drop one paint bucket, and we're looking where they have an area in common. So you can see we have lines going this way and lines coming this way. So this is your common area. This is where you would have your paint bucket drop in. That's the solution to the system. This is all the areas that the two lines, when graphed, would have values in common. Means you could pick any point over here and substitute it into the first inequality or the second inequality, and they would both be true. If you picked any of these other values, only one might be true, but the other would not be. All right, so we're going to try the one on page 401 at the top of your page where it says got it 1. So I'm going to go ahead and switch out this paper real fast. And we're going to move to the got it 1 on page 401 at the top. It says y is greater than or equal to negative x plus 5. And then it has negative 3x plus y is less than or equal to a negative 4. All right, so here we go. Is our first equation, Tanaya, in slope-intercept form? Beautiful. Yes, this is slope-intercept form. Fantastic, Tanaya. This is slope-intercept form. All right, so Tanaya, if that's in slope-intercept form, what is my slope? I love it. Tanaya knew that there was a 1 right here in front of that x that we did not see. It's an understood one. So this value right here is my entire slope. So she said her slope was negative 1. Beautiful, Tanaya. So now how can I write that as a fraction, Miss Angel? That's right. I put negative 1 over 1. So Tanaya, what does that mean? That's right. That means I fall 1 and I run right 1. All right. So what is my y-intercept value, Miss Mia? That's correct. This whole back end is my y-intercept. That's my b. It's 5. So that is my y-intercept. And what does my y-intercept tell me, Mia? That's correct. It's my starting point. All right, so now we're going to move on to our second one. So over here, Lakeisha, what form is this in? That's correct. It's in standard form. Which means now I have to do what to it, Lakeisha? That's right. I got to change it to slope-intercept form. How do I do that? Beautiful. She said this is a minus 3x, and I need to move the x to the right. And I do it by doing the opposite of minus 3x, which is plus 3x. So negative 3x, then add 3x. And if I add 3x on the right side, I have to add 3x on the left side. I'm sorry, I must add it on the right side as well. All right, so now looking at what we have here, Lakeisha, what happens to this left side? You're correct. Negative 3x plus 3x, cross out, leaving me with y. And how do I write this right side so that it is in slope-intercept form, Miss Cheyenne? That's correct. I write the slope first, 3x, and the y-intercept, negative 4, second. So now we need to identify our slope. So Cheyenne, who is our slope? That is correct. Our slope is 3. It's the value in front of your x. It's the coefficient to my x is my slope. How can I write this as a fraction, Isaiah? That's right. I put it over 1. What does that mean, Isaiah? That's right. That means I'm going to rise 3, and I'm going to run right 1. All right, so Cheyenne, what is my y-intercept in this problem then? That is correct. This whole back end, negative 4, is my b value. So my b value is negative 4, and that is my y-intercept. And what does the y-intercept represent to me, Amaya? That is correct. It represents my starting point. All right, so we're going to go ahead and move this up just a smidge so we can get a graph in here. Moving it slowly so don't make your eyes go crazy. All right, so we're going to graph our first line. So where are we going to start on our first one? Thank you, Laquan. We're going to start here at my b value, which is 5. So I'm going to go up 5 on the y-axis. Again, y-axis. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's my y-axis, and that's 5 on the y-axis. All right, my slope is what, Laquan? That's right, it's -1. So what does that mean for me? Yes, from my starting point, I'm going to fall 1 and then run right 1. Will my line be solid or dotted? You are correct. It will be a solid line. Beautiful. So now that I have my solid line, Ethan, what do I do? Correct, I need a test point. Beautiful. All right, so Ethan, what test point should we use? That's right, we can use 0, 0 because our line does not pass through 0, 0. So our test point will be 0, 0. So now we're going to go to our equation, that is our inequality, that is in slope-intercept form. So we're going to replace our y with 0, greater than or equal to negative, that's a 1, and then 0, plus 5. So there's only a 1 in front of our 0, so that leaves it as just 0. And distribute -1 times 0 is still 0, plus 5. We bring down our 0, greater than or equal to, 0 plus 5 is 5. So Ethan, is 0 greater than or equal to 5? You're correct, that is false. 0 is not greater than or equal to 5. So our test point represents the true side. So all of this is true. That means if we have a false, we need to go on the other side. That's our false side. All right, so we're going to graph our second line, which means we're going to start here at -4 on the y-axis. So how do I get to that, Angel? That's right, I go down 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And put my dot. That's my -4 on the y-axis. From here, Angel, what do I do? Beautiful. She said her slope is 3. So she rises from this point. 1, 2, 3, and to the right 1. Angel, will your line be solid or dotted? Beautiful. She said solid. And why is it solid, Angel? She said because there's a solid bar underneath her inequality. So solid bar, solid line. Beautiful for knowing that. All right, so Fabian, can I use the same test point that Ethan used for the first line? You're right, I can. And why can't I? Oh, he said our second line did not go through the 0, 0 marker, so that test point is still a good test point to use. So test point can still be 0, 0. Beautiful job. All right, so now I'm going to replace my y value with 0, less than or equal to 3 times 0, and then -4. All right, so here we go. Sorry, I turned that book on you a little bit. There's only a 1 here, so 1 times 0 is still 0. 3 times 0 is 0. Take away 4. So we got 0 is less than or equal to -4. So Fabian, is 0 less than or equal to -4? You're correct, that is false. So since that is false, we cannot shade on this side because that's the true side because our x is on this side, our test point. So we're going to shade on the false side, which would be over here, false side. So now we're looking for the area that they would have in common, which now you're going to see that common area right in here. So this is where we would drop our paint bucket in at. Beautiful job. All right, so now we're going to turn in our books to page 403. So we're going to go to page 403, and we're going to try some problems here. All right, so let's switch the paper out. I'm going to write here at the top and let you know we're going to go to page 403. So let's go to page 403. All right, the first one that we want to do will be number 10. Number 10. Let's do number 10. All right, number 10, we have y is less than 2x plus 4. Y is less than 2x plus 4. And then we have negative 3x minus 2y is greater than or equal to positive 6. All right, there are two problems for number 10 on page 403. So let's look at the first one and ask ourselves a few questions. All right, so on our first one, is this in slope-intercept form? Correct, it is in slope-intercept form. So I'm going to make that note, slope-intercept. Fantastic, students. All right, so Miss Amaya, help me out. What is my slope? Fantastic, it is 2. And how do I write that as a fraction? Beautiful job, I put it over 1. And what does that mean for me if I put my slope 2 over 1? Beautiful, it means I'm going to rise 2 and run right 1. Gorgeous. All right, so now Maya, what is my slope, y-intercept, my b value? Correct. Her b value is 4. Beautiful, that's her y-intercept. And that is her starting point. So again, your slope is the coefficient to the x, and your b value or your y-intercept is the entire back end, whether it's positive or negative. All right, so let's move over to our second one. Is this in slope-intercept form or standard form, Ethan? You're correct. This is in standard form. All right, Ethan, what would be the first thing that I would need to do? You're correct. I need to move the x from the left side to the right side. So how do I move a negative 3x and remove it from the left side and then put it on the right side doing the same operation? You're correct. He said this is a minus 3x, so he would add 3x. So negative 3x, the opposite is plus 3x. And if he adds 3x here on this left side, he wants to add 3x here on this right side. All right, so Ethan, what happens to this negative 3x plus 3x? Beautiful, they cross cancel each other out, leaving me with a negative 2y is greater than or equal to. And how do I put this in the correct order? Good job, Ethan. I put my slope first, that positive 3x, and my y-intercept or my b value, that positive 6, second. So now, am I in slope-intercept form? You're right, Isaiah. I'm close, but not quite there. So what should I do, Cheyenne? All right, I'm going to divide by negative 2. So I'm going to divide this value by negative 2, but I also need to divide my slope by negative 2, and I need to divide my y-intercept by negative 2. Now, we did inequalities earlier in the year, so let's do a little refresher here. If we divide all sides or both sides or everything by negative value, something special takes place in regards to this inequality. What happens to that inequality, Miss Amaya? Beautiful. It switches directions. So instead of being a greater than or equal to, it is going to become a less than or equal to symbol. So negative divided by negative is a positive, and 2 divided by 2 is 1y. All right, can we reduce 3 over negative 2? No. So we're going to leave this negative and just put 3 over 2, and then our x off to the side. Is 6. What is 6 divided by negative 2? Can we reduce that? Beautiful, to negative 3. Fantastic. All right, so now let's look at this guy and determine who our slope is. So let's look in here. Who might our slope be? Fantastic, Miss Ava. Our slope is the coefficient to our x, which is negative 3 over 2. What does that mean for me to do? Beautiful, Tanaya. Means I'm going to fall 3 and run right 2. Beautiful, beautiful. And a b value, what would that be, Ethan? That's correct. Remember, the b value is the entire back end. That's your b value, so negative 3. And that represents my y-intercept, which is my starting point. All right, so we're going to go ahead and push the screen up just a smidge. And then we're going to go ahead and draw us a graph. So this graph. All right, so we're going to go ahead and graph our first point. So where are we going to start for this first graph, Miss Mia? That's right, we're going to start this y-intercept at 4. So we're going to go ahead and go up 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So when you pick your line tool, you're going to drop your first dot at 4 on the y-axis. From here, Miss Mia, what do I do? Beautiful. She said her slope was 2, so she was going to rise 2, 1, 2, and run right 1. Mia, will you make this line solid or dotted? Beautiful. She said it's going to be a dotted line. because there's no equal to bar underneath her original inequality. All right, so now from here, what do we do? That is correct, Laquan. We do a test point, and you said you wanted to use the 0, 0. I like that. So we're going to do our test point. So test point, come over here. And how come we can use 0, 0 as a test point? Fantastic, Lakeisha, because our line does not pass through the 0, 0. So I'm going to replace the y with 0 in the inequality, less than 2 times 0 plus 4. All right, so there's a 1 in front, so 1 times 0 is 0. 2 times 0 is 0 plus 4. And the question is 0 less than 4. So, Lakeisha, is 0 less than 4? You're correct, that is true. 0 is less than 4. Since it's true, we shade on the side of our test point. So we'll put little shady marks. All right, there they are. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and graph the second line. Where are we going to start for this one, Cheyenne? That's right, we're going to start at -3 on the y-axis. We're going to go down 3. 1, 2, 3. Put our first dot, that's -3. All right, from here, what do I do, Cheyenne? Beautiful. She's like, my slope is -3 over 2. So I fall 3 more and run right 2. So fall 1, 2, 3 more and run right 2. So will my line be solid or dotted? Beautiful. Solid line because I had an equal to bar underneath my inequality. So equal to bar. So we're looking at this. Remember, we can't use this inequality anymore. We have to use this one in order to answer all the questions about our graph because that is our new transformed graph. All right, so now, Miss Cheyenne, can we still use the same test point as 0, 0? And why? Yes, we can, because this line does not pass through the 0, 0. You are correct. So my test point can still be 0, 0. All right, so I'm going to replace my y with 0, my less than or equal to bar, -3 over 2 times 0, and then our -3. All right, there's a 1 out front, so 1 times 0 is 0. -3 over 2 times 0 is 0, and then -3. So, Amaya, is 0 less than or equal to -3? You're correct, that is false. 0 is greater than -3. It is not less than. So that means if this is the true side, I can't shade on the true side, I got a false. So I've got to shade on this side. So now I'm looking for the area that they have in common, which would be this area in here. This is our area they got in common. So this is where you would drop your paint bucket in. Beautiful. All right, I'm going to switch out the page. We're going to go to another problem. All right, we're now going to try problem number 14. Problem number 14. We're going to do 14, and then after this we'll do one more, and then we'll be done. All right, so we're going to do y is less than 2x minus 3. Y is less than 2x minus 3. And y is greater than 5. All right, so the question we ask ourselves is what, Miss Ava? That's right. We ask, is it slope-intercept form or standard form? So, Miss Ava, what would it be? Slope-intercept form or standard form? Beautiful. Slope-intercept form. All right, so for the slope-intercept form, Miss Amaya, can you tell me what my slope would be? Beautiful. She said her slope is 2 because that's the coefficient to her x. Beautiful. How can I write that as a fraction, Amaya? Beautiful. I'm going to put it over 1. 2 over 1. What does that tell me I do? That's correct. I will rise 2 and run right 1. Fantastic. Now, where's my b value, Mr. Isaiah? Beautiful. My b value is this entire back end. It is -3. Gorgeous. Love it. So what does that b value tell me? That's correct. That's my y-intercept. All right, so Ethan, what does it also mean to be my y-intercept? Yes, that's my starting point. Okay, so now let's look at our second equation over here. Y is greater than 5. Who remembers from yesterday's lesson what kind of line this will be? Beautiful. This is going to create a horizontal line. Fantastic job, Lakeisha, for knowing that. A horizontal line. So that means when we graph this, I only need to make one dot, and then I just do the other side right or left, and then I create my horizontal line. So let's go ahead and start graphing. So we're going to go ahead and create our graph. All right, there's my graph. All right, so on the first one, where are we going to start at? That's right, Angel. I'm going to start at -3 on the y-axis because that is my b value or my y-intercept. 1, 2, 3 down. For my first dot, that's my -3. So from there, Angel, what do I do now? Correct. We're going to use our slope. So we're going to rise 2 and run right 1. So rise 2, 1, 2, and then run right 1. Will my line be solid or dotted, Angel? Correct. I'm going to make a dotted line, and she said we make that dotted line because why, Angel? Correct. There is no equal to bar underneath our inequality. All right, so now, Angel, what test point should I use? That's correct. My test point will be 0, 0 because my line does not pass through the 0, 0. So test point will be 0, 0. All right, so I'm going to replace my y value with 0, less than 2 times 0, minus 3. So there's only a 1 in front, so 1 times 0 is still 0. 2 times 0 is 0, minus 3. So Tanaya, is 0 less than -3? You're correct, that is false. 0 is not less than -3. So if this is the true side, the false side would be on this side. So here's our false side. All right, so now, I'll bring this back up again. I think I dropped it on you guys, I'm sorry. If we have a horizontal line, that means we're going to go to 5 on the y-axis. So our starting point will be 5 on the y-axis. So to go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. First dot, that's my 5 on the y-axis. To make a horizontal line, what do I do now, Angel? You're correct. I can either make a point directly to the right or directly to the left. It doesn't matter which one. Will my line be solid or dotted, Fabian? Correct. This would be a dotted line. Why is it dotted, Fabian? Because there is no equal to bar. Beautiful. All right, so can we still use that same test point, Fabian? You're correct, because this line does not pass through 0, 0, so we can still use our test point of 0, 0. But we only have one variable to replace, it's y. So we're going to replace the y with 0 and ask ourselves, Fabian, is 0 greater than 5? You're correct, that is false. 0 is not bigger than 5. So we do not shade above, we do not shade where our test point is. So we would shade up here above it. So I have to make these a little bit more, because you can see my line didn't go out. So you can kind of see now where they cross or have in common. It's all this little area up in here. So this is where you would drop your little paint bucket in at. So again, remember with the system of inequalities, you will only drop in one paint bucket. So if you drop in more than one, it will mark it wrong. All right, so we're going to do one last final question. We're going to do question number 16, and then we'll be done for this lesson. All right, so here we go. Question number 16, still on that same page, 403. We're going to do x plus 2y is less than or equal to 10. And we're going to do x plus 2y is greater than or equal to 9. All right, so what form is this first equation in? That's correct, Ava. It's in standard form. All right, so Miss Ava, what must I do first? She's correct. We've got to move this x from the left side to the right side by doing the opposite of a plus x, which is minus x. So she's going to take x and minus x. And if she subtracts x on the left, she said we have to subtract x on the right. Beautiful. So what happens to this x minus x, Miss Ava? Correct. They cross cancel out, leaving me with 2y is less than or equal to, and what order should I write this in, Ava? Correct. My slope first, negative x, and my b value positive 10 seconds. Beautiful. Now, am I done? You're right, Ava, I'm not. What should I do now? She said we need to get this y by itself. So in order to do that, we need to remove the 2. So we're going to divide because 2 times y is multiplying, and the opposite of multiplying is dividing. So we divide this value by 2. We must divide our slope by 2 and our y-intercept by 2 as well. So 2 divided by 2 leaves me with 1y. My symbol does not change because we divided by positive 2's across the board, not like we did earlier when we divided by negative 2's. Now there's a negative 1 here we don't see. So remember with slopes, we want to leave them in fractions if they don't reduce to a whole number. So we leave this as negative 1 over 2x, and 10 divided by 2 is 5. It's important with our slopes to stay fractions, not decimals. Your y-intercepts can be decimals, but not your fractions. All right, so now my slope would be what, Ethan? Correct, this is negative 1/2. And what does that mean to do, Laquan? Correct, that means we're going to fall 1, and then we're going to run right 2. Beautiful. So what would be my y-intercept, Cheyenne? Beautiful. My y-intercept is this entire back end, so it is 5. That's my y-intercept. And what does my y-intercept tell me about my graph? That's right, it's my starting point. All right, Miss Mia, let's look at the second one. Is this in slope-intercept form or standard form? Correct, standard form. All right, how do I get it into slope-intercept form, Miss Mia? That's right, we're going to do the same thing that Ava did. We need to move the x from the left side to the right side by subtracting x on the left and subtracting x on the right. So we got our x, and we're going to subtract x here on the left, and we're going to subtract x here on the right. All right, so what happens to this x minus x? That's correct, they cross-cancel each other out. So I've got my 2y greater than or equal to. How do I write this in the correct order? Fantastic job, Miss Angel. My slope first and my y-intercept second. Beautiful. So Angel, now what do I do? Correct, she said we divide across by 2. The y by 2, the slope by 2, and the y-intercept by 2. So 2 divided by 2 gives me 1y, my greater than or equal to. Remember, there's a negative 1 right there we don't see. So we're going to leave that negative 1/2 because, again, we want our slopes to stay in fractions or whole numbers. And then 9 divided by 2 is what, Miss Lakeisha? That's correct. It's 4.5. And again, like I told you, your y-intercepts can be decimals, just not your slopes because it makes it too difficult to graph. All right, so now we're going to identify our slope. So what is our slope, Miss Angel? That's right, negative 1/2. So Isaiah, what does that mean to do? That's right, I'm going to fall 1, and I'm going to run right 2. All right, Miss Cheyenne, what is my y-intercept? Beautiful. It is 4.5. That's my y-intercept. And what does that tell me? That's right, it's my starting point. All right, so move this up out of the screen a little bit. The top there, I'm going to go ahead and make our graph so we can see our picture. All right, so we're going to go ahead and graph our first graph. And where will we start with that first graph, Ethan? That's right, we're going to start here at this positive 5. So I'm going to go up 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So up 5 and put my first dot. I'm going to drop it in. So from there, Ethan, what do I do? Fantastic. He said his slope was negative 1/2. So he's going to fall 1 and run right 2. He's going to fall 1 and run right 1, 2. Ethan, will your line be solid or dotted? Beautiful. He said he has an equal to bar, so he'll have a solid line. So now, Ethan, what should we do? Correct. We need a test point. All right, so Ethan, what test point should we use? You're right, we could use 0, 0 because our line does not pass through the origin or the 0, 0. So our test point will be 0, 0. So we're going to replace our y value with 0. less than or equal to negative 1/2, and replace our x value with 0 plus 5. So now we have a 1 out in front, so 1 times 0 is 0. Negative 1/2 times 0 is still 0 plus 5. So we're asking ourselves, is 0 less than or equal to 5? So what do you think? Is 0 less than or equal to 5? Yes, 0 is less than 5. So this is a true statement. So since this is true, we'll shade on the side where our test point is. So we're going to shade down. Four and a half right there. It's really close to our 5. So from there, you're right, fantastic. We're going to use this negative 1/2 slope, and we're going to fall 1 and run right 2. So we go here at 4.5, we go down 1, we're at 3.5, and we go over 1, 2, we put our dot in there. All right, will our line be solid or dotted, Miss Ava? Correct, it would be a solid line. So solid line. What do we have here? Anyone know? Oh, beautiful. These are parallel lines. How could you tell they're parallel to start with? Beautiful, Miss Angel. She said they had the same slope, so they're parallel. Beautiful, beautiful. I love it. So, Angel, with our second line here, can we still use the same test point? Yes, we can. We can use that same test point. Why, Angel? You're correct, because it does not pass through the 0, 0 marker, so we can still use the same test point. So we're going to replace our y with 0 and our x with 0. So we're going to have 0 is, I can even write this right, guys. Replace our y with 0 greater than or equal to negative 1/2 times 0 plus 4.5. I'm trying to squeeze that in there. So there's a 1 in front. 1 times 0 is 0. Negative 1/2 times 0 is 0 plus 4.5. So, Angel, is 0 greater than or equal to 4.5? You are correct. 0 is not greater than 4.5. So this is a false statement. So if this is a false statement, that means if this is my line, I can't shade here, I've got to shade here. Now can you see the area that they all have in common? You notice it's all right inside there. It's between the two areas in their line. This is the area that they have in common. So this is where you would drop your little paint bucket, right inside there. The little paint bucket go right inside there. Alright, and that is the end of our lesson today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys learned something. If you get lost or you're still not real sure, please send me a message. I'll remind. I love you guys and have a fantastic day.